Hi everyone, how are you? I hope you're doing well. It's been a while since I've done a bookish video, and so I've decided that since I haven't done any wrap-ups this year, I'm just gonna go straight ahead and do like a mid-year summary. So first I'm gonna talk about some stats about my reading this year, and then I'm gonna continue to the tag. So as for stats, I'm gonna be using just Storygraph stats. I read 38 books. My most read mood was emotional, adventurous, and dark. Pace was mostly medium. Page number was mostly, between 300 and 500. Didn't expect that. Mostly fiction. As for genres, the three top are contemporary, LGBTQIA+, and romance. Closely followed, well, not that closely, but followed by fantasy and young adult. My average rating was 3.85, which I think suggests that I had a pretty good reading year so far, so hopefully that will continue. So that's for the stats. I'm gonna link my Storygraph down below, and now let's get to the tag. So the first question is, best book you've read so far? I had to think about this a little bit because I read a lot of good books, but it was really hard to like point out the one. However, after some consideration, I chose We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. This book, I don't want to say too much, honestly. It is a very powerful memoir about a queer Pakistani person. They moved to Canada with their family when they were around 12, I think. They were pretty young. And so first we follow them in Pakistan growing up. They were also a religious minority within Pakistan, so that was difficult. They also had some, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say very traumatic experiences. And so you see that part of their life, and then they moved to Canada and they moved there as refugees, so you see them sort of grappling with the new reality. It was difficult for them to be the new kid who is different and who also is different from their family, and is just sort of trying to find their own place. So that was another part of the book. And then the last part was really when they were in their 20s, or I think maybe even 30s, and they finally started to like come to terms with their identity and finding themselves and their place in the world and finding like-minded people. And the whole book is just, it is an emotional roller coaster for sure, but it is so worth reading in my opinion. It really made me think, which I think is great when memoirs do that, or like when books in general do that. This was one of the memoirs that really like felt very eye-opening, and I don't know, I just thought it's a great book. Okay, before we move on to another question, I need to talk about some honorary mentions, because even though that was the best book I've read, there are so many other great books that I read as well, and I need to talk about at least 3 of them very briefly. First is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Great fantasy. If you like slower fantasy that's more focused on the characters and like some political intrigue, and it kind of, you feel like you're growing up with the main character, this is perfect for you. I'm currently reading the second book, Royal Assassin. I'm like halfway through sort of, and it's just a great series, honestly. I will talk about it more when I finish it, which will hopefully be this year, but we'll get to that. But yeah, that cannot not be on this list, honestly. The second honorary mention is Love in Color by Bolu Babalulu. I am so sorry for that pronunciation, it might be wrong. I tried my best, but yeah. Anyway, this is an anthology of basically stories of love, but they are sort of like reimaginings of myths from around the world, and they're told through like a modern lens. Some of the myths are more similar to the original ones, some a bit less. They're all in like modern setting, and it was just amazing. It was so creative. It made me feel so much joy at times, also other emotions as well, but it was just such a great book to read, and I had high hopes and it didn't disappoint, so yeah, amazing. And the last but not least, honorary mention is The Street by Ann Petrie. This is a classic. It took me a couple of months to read it, and I finished it as an audiobook, which, if you're thinking of reading this book, I would highly, highly recommend the audiobook, because when I was reading the physical copy, I had to be in a certain mindset or headspace to read it, because it is a classic. English isn't my first language, and I kind of had to be really present to read it. Also, there's a lot of social commentary, so it's a book that you really have to think about, or you don't have to, but I mean, there's no point in reading it if you don't, I think. So I had to be in a certain headspace to get the language properly and think about it. But when I listened to it as an audiobook, it just came sort of more naturally, so that was great. So I would definitely recommend that, and I would recommend the book in general. Next question is the best sequel you read so far. I haven't read many sequels, so I would say maybe Royal Assassin. However, I haven't finished that yet, so maybe that's cheating. Also, Rule of Wolves was pretty good, so maybe I'd go with that one. So the next one is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. The first one is The Do's and Donuts of Love by Adiba Jagdar. Again, sorry for my pronunciation. I read 2 books by her. I will talk about one of them a bit later in this video. And they were both great. They both brought me joy. They were very wholesome, even though they had some heavier topics as well. So I'm really excited about this one. Also, it has donuts, so, you know. Another book that is a new release, and it's become so popular, and it's actually crazy, so many people have read it, and I feel kind of FOMO, is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I don't know if I'll like this book, but I want to read it because I'm so curious. I've heard so many things. It has really good rating on Goodreads, which is kind of sus actually, because it has too good of a rating. I don't trust it. Also, I heard some more seasoned fantasy readers not being that fond of it, but also some other people who I also trust were well, it's not, it's not like Robin Hobb or Tolkien or whatever. It's not like this high, amazing fantasy, but it is a fun book to read. So, if you go into that with those expectations, it's gonna be fun. So I'm just curious. I don't have super high expectations. I don't know, I'm in it for just a good time. Also some romance subplot, or maybe it's the main plot. I'm honestly not sure. But yeah, I'm pretty curious. Also, I haven't read a YA fantasy in a while, and I think this is YA. I mean, I'm sorry, but Graduate or Die sounds YA, so I'm just gonna go with the notion that it is YA. So yeah, and another release that I'm also planning to read, but this one is the one I don't think I'll read this year because it gives me major summer vibes, but my summer TBR for this year is already absolutely packed. I mean, I'm a mood reader, so we'll see, maybe I'll get to it, but I don't know. And that is, it's a long title, so I had to check, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. This book, again, has been very popular online, and I try not to give into the hype of books because I try to just read books that I know I will enjoy, regardless of what people online say about them. But it's hard, and this book, it looks so good. It has pirates, it has adventure, it has also an older main character, which I think is pretty nice because I feel like a lot of main characters are around the same age. In YA, they're 15, then in contemporary, they're in their 20s. And while that's interesting to me because I'm also in my 20s, I also want to read about older characters because, it's getting boring if there's no variety. The next question also ties to new releases, and it's the most anticipated release of the second half of the year. I don't really follow new releases, so I had to go through my TBR to see if there are any, and I found 2. One is Murtagh by Christopher Paolini, which is the 5th book, long anticipated 5th book in the Aragon series. It has a different name, the whole series, but anyway, Aragon is the first book. I read it as a child, I loved it. I reread it 2 years ago or a year ago, something like that. I didn't really read the whole 4 books, only the first 3. So I'm thinking I might reread the 4th one before I start more tag, like it makes the most sense to me. And the second book I'm really excited about is Thick as Thieves by TJ Kuhn, which brings me to the next question, which is the biggest surprise, which was the first book in this series. So Thick as Thieves is the second book, and the first book was Among Thieves. And oh my god, I was so pleasantly surprised. I had this book on my TBR for a while and I picked it up because I just was in the mood for a heist. I was in the mood for something like Six of Crows, and this seemed to be something like that, so I picked it up. I had moderately high expectations, but not like super high, and it was so good. I don't know what it is, if I was like right in the right mood for it, if I don't know, I just so good. Basically, it's about a group of misfits. Well, I don't know if that's the right word. A group of people from different backgrounds who unite for a heist. Unlike Six of Crows, these people are not friends. They don't trust each other, and they are sort of plotting against each other because they have different motives with the thing that they're trying to steal, which was also in Six of Crows, but here it's much more. Like, the characters are much more, I don't know, like they're really not friends, and they are becoming more friendly, but they are still betraying each other. And like, when I say betraying, I mean my jaw dropped at the end. I was like, no fucking way. Yeah. Even Kai could never, I think. He's too mellow for this shit. So it's like, yeah, a bit more high-stakes version of Six of Crows. I listened to it as an audiobook, which was really fun. I would recommend. And I'm just really excited, like, to see where this is gonna go, because like I said, my jaw dropped at the end. I was like, really, I was like, where is this gonna go? You know, this doesn't look good. Anyway, a great book. The biggest surprise, for sure. Now we go to the other side of the surprise coin, and that is the biggest disappointment. So books that like surprise me but in a negative way. I have 2, and I'm really sad about both of them. So the first book is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I don't know what to say. I genuinely was worried. I mean, okay. So I read Red, White and Royal Blue like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a while ago. Like, it's been a fair amount of time, and I liked it at the time. I mean, obviously very unrealistic, but it was fun. And then when One Last Stop came out, I remember thinking like, oh my god, this is great, but I was also worried because I was like, what if it's not as good? My instinct was correct. I didn't love that. To be fair, I think the premise and like the idea is really nice. The setup was great. I expected great things, but it just didn't deliver for me personally. I know it's very popular, and I'm really glad people like it because, I mean, it has great representation and it deals with important things, has found family. It should be the perfect book for me, but it's not. And I don't know, I genuinely don't know what went wrong. I just was kind of bored. I didn't really care. And I don't know. The second book that I was also disappointed in, and this one I was so disappointed in I didn't even finish it, even though I was like 70% in, 60% in, something like that, is Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho. Again, I had high expectations. I read 2 other books by this author, Sorcerer to the Throne, which I quite liked. It wasn't, I think I gave it like 3.5 stars, but it was very enjoyable. And then a novella, which was kind of weird. I didn't really like that. So now, upon reflection, I don't know why my expectations were so high, but I guess I just liked the premise, which is basically a girl, well, a young woman who has like Malaysian background. Her parents are from Malaysia, but she grew up in the US. And now they come back to Malaysia for some family reasons. And basically, her grandmother's ghost starts haunting her and is trying to use her to like basically take care of some unfinished business. She's also a lesbian and she is very much closeted. She does not want to tell her parents. It's just a lot for her, and she's kind of a hot mess. And usually you know, from this premise, I would think, oh my god, like that would be a great book for me. Just like with One Last Stop, but it somehow wasn't. Again, I had the same problems as with One Last Stop. I just didn't care, like, at all. And I don't know, maybe it's because I didn't like read it in the right time, because I was traveling a lot. I listened to it as an audiobook and I was traveling around a lot, so maybe I didn't pay like full attention and stuff. But it was like, meh. Then I just decided to DNF it because I thought, well, what's the point if I just don't care what's gonna happen? So the next question is your new favorite author, or like author that's new to you and you enjoyed. I don't really have favorite authors that much. I have a couple, but it's not easy to get on my favorite authors list, so I wouldn't say this is my new favorite author, but it's definitely an author that I haven't read from before and I really enjoyed. And that is Fredrik Backman, which also ties to the next question, which is which book made you cry? I cry a lot, so technically probably a lot of these books that I've read, but one that I distinctly remember just sobbing, like absolutely sobbing, is A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. And oh my god, that was such a good book. I genuinely cannot believe how good it was. Like, it is a bestseller and I've heard people say good things, and one day I just randomly got it from the library and I thought, yeah, like, let's try it. But oh my god, it was so good. You know what, this should have been in my honorary mentions for the best book as well, because it was such a good book. I was rudely interrupted by my camera, but what I was saying is that A Man Called Ove is very emotional, very wholesome in a way, and I definitely need to read more books by this author. Another question is a book that made me happy, and the book that made me happy, there were a couple, but one that just instantly came to mind is Honey and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating. I love this. It's like enemies to lovers, fake dating, young adult. It's so cute. While it is cute, it also deals with some more serious issues, but it still keeps its cuteness. And I had super high expectations, so I was really worried that it's not going to live up to them. I was kind of, yeah, because for some reason, I've really hyped myself up for this book. I don't know why, but I did, and it did not disappoint. I gave it 4.5 stars, I think. It didn't give full 5, because there were some minor things that annoyed me. I don't remember them now. All I remember is that it was a great book, so if you like young adult romances, I would definitely recommend, because it's so sweet. Now, next question is the most beautiful book I bought or got as a gift. So this one, A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. It is very pretty in my opinion. I don't know if that's focused, but anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm probably gonna read it in the fall. And the last question is, what books do you need to read till the end of the year? And honestly, I don't like to support this narrative that you need to read some books, because this is a hobby for most of us. But if I accept this narrative of needing to read something, I have a lot on my TBR, so technically I need to read a lot of books until the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, I chose 3 just because I have like 20 and I didn't want to talk about 20. 2 of them I have here with me, and then 1 I have in my student apartment. All 3 of them are physical copies. All 3 of them I own, so it also goes with my goal of reducing my physical TBR. So we'll have to see that. So the first book I want to read this year is Writing from Ukraine. It's basically a collection of fiction, poetry and essays since 1965, and it's by various Ukrainian writers. I have never read, I think, wait, no, that's not true, because Vita Nostra is by a Ukrainian couple. Okay, never mind. But I haven't read a lot by Ukrainian writers, and I feel like the invasion of Ukraine just sort of reminded me that I am not very educated about this country and I want to change that. And so when I saw this book, I thought it's a great way to start. I think it's also might be really nice that because it's a collection, it might be pretty easy to read because, you know, you have like little chunks that you're getting through. It's not like one big book. So yeah. The second book is Feminisms by Lucy Delep. I'm really excited about this. It should be basically the history of feminism, but from a more global perspective. So it shouldn't be just like the first wave, second wave, third wave, you know, all that just like Western view. It should be more global and it should look at different movements throughout history in different parts of the world, which is great. Alright, the third book that I feel like I need to read this year is the third book in the already mentioned Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. So this is the second one. Like I said, I'm like halfway through. And the third one, Assassin's Quest, is still, you know, waiting me. And I do want to finish this trilogy this year because I think it's important to read these books as quickly after each other as possible, just because there's a lot of information and I feel like, obviously, I think I will understand everything even if I read it like in a year, but I think it's a shame to like lose some information that I got, for example, in this book, because I think if I have that, I will enjoy that third book more and maybe see some more connections, be able to predict something. It just will be more fun. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what books you read this year, or just let me know which was your favorite book. Whatever you prefer. But yeah, maybe I'll see you next time. Bye.